Thanks again, and welcome to American Movie Classics. I'm Bob Dorian. Here we are at Saturday, and that means, once again, we're at Weekend Hollywood Gold time, where we return with more of the best in movie entertainment. First of all, we'll present a science fiction classic of 1951. It's called The Thing, produced and directed by Howard Hawks, and starring future TV star, everybody at once, James Arness as the alien creature. It created long lines at movie theaters every place. Then more thrills and chills abound in the Val Lewton horror classic, The Leopard Man. Dennis O'Keefe is in that one, and Margot and Gene Brooks, who star in a scary tale of a leopard loose in a small New Mexico town. Next, Rosalind Russell stars with Brian Aherne in a kind of change of pace. It says Sandra Dee is also a star in this. It's a family comedy called Rosie. It's based on a stage success called A Very Rich Woman. Russell is an eccentric grandmother with a mind of her own. Vanessa Brown and Audrey Meadows are the co-stars. Next, we'll see Tyrone Power and Madeline Carroll and Freddie Bartholomew and George Sanders, too, who star in an 18th century saga called Lloyd's of London, the story of the world-famous insurance company, of course. Next, it's Miriam Hopkins, who goes bohemian to meet Ray Milland in a generation gap comedy called Wise Girl. Walter Abel and Margaret Dumont are some of the characters that she encounters in a Greenwich Village of 1937. Now, we'll do the answer to yesterday's movie question, and then we'll be on with our first feature. In what 1952 tourist attraction thriller did an unfaithful wife plot to kill her husband? Well, that Technicolor potboiler was Niagara. There it is right there, with Joseph Cotton, Jean Peters, and Marilyn Monroe in her first big role. James Mason was the original choice for the husband, but Joseph Cotton was eventually cast. I have another question for you later, and of course I'll be back to tell you more about our first feature right after we look at this.
Here's an exciting offer from the channel that brought you 50 years of Hollywood. It's American Movie Classics Magazine, the magazine of classic Hollywood.
No kidding.
And you could subscribe to this unique and informative blend of history, fantasy, and information about the golden era of Hollywood.
That's right.
Every month, American Movie Classics Magazine takes you behind the scenes for an in-depth look at the movies and the mavens, the glamour and the gossip, the studios and the stars.
Now there's something a girl could make sacrifices for.
Each colorful issue is filled with photos, features, and fun. Find out about the movie milestones and the lavish lifestyles, the image makers and the deal breakers, the rumors and the romance. It's the greatest period in Hollywood history, beautifully recreated in the pages of this elegant monthly magazine.
Wait a minute, folks, you ain't heard nothing yet.
And there's more. Every month, we spotlight the classic movies and fabulous festivals running on American Movie Classics. Plus, you get a complete program listing for the entire month.
Remember, you heard it on this channel first.
It's a spectacular magazine that no movie fan will want to be without. And it's easy to order.
How do we do that?
Only $9.95 for 12 issues. Send your check or money order today to American Movie Classics Magazine, Post Office Box 506, Department A, Oceanside, New York, 11572.
I better mark that down so that I don't forget it.
Order the magazine of classic Hollywood. Subscribe to American Movie Classics Magazine.
Legendary director-turned-producer Howard Hawks gave makeup artist Lee Greenway a very interesting assignment some time back. His exact words were, "Make me a thing." Now, many makeup people would immediately sit down and they make some kind of sketches, but Greenway never worked like that. He had to have a real face to work on. So Hawks supplied him with an extra to experiment upon. The artist spent weeks applying mortician's wax, which is called derma wax in the makeup business, to this guy's face, and then he would mold it into different ways. Can you imagine getting paid to be the extra to have this guy do this stuff on you? One face had deep set eyes and eyebrows that swept up at 45-degree angles and a hairline to match. Another had long, thick, curving eyebrows and a receding hairline. A third had kind of a round face and no hair at all, kind of like some of Nicky's girlfriends that he tells me about. Well, anyway, every time Greenway thought that he had a suitably frightening creature, he and the model would get into his car and they'd drive out to Howard Hawks' house in the Brentwood section of Beverly Hills, which must have been quite a sight. For 2 months, Hawks would look at the faces and then he'd say, "Try something else." Well, according to Al Taylor and Sue Roy in a book called Making a Monster, Greenway was driving up to Brentwood with another one of these horrifying faces one day when he stopped at a red light. You can tell what's going to happen, right? There was a lady in the car across the way, and she happened to glance over at the passenger and fainted dead away. And it was at that point that they knew they had the thing. To heighten the realism of this movie, Hawks purposely used unknown actors, but the man who played the thing didn't remain unknown for too long. He's James Arness, of course, who's very well known now. He went on to play Matt Dillon for 20 years on Gunsmoke on television. So here's the 1951 science fiction sensation, The Thing.
Next on American Movie Classics, a series of gruesome murders has an entire town in an uproar. Dennis O'Keefe stars in The Leopard Man. It's next on American Movie Classics.
Here are just a couple of the tricks they used in making the special effects on the thing and making the thing, as a result, come to life. To do the scene in which the thing melts, do you remember that one? They froze a dummy in a block of ice, and they kept it in a local ice house so the thing wouldn't melt too quickly, and they shot all the close-ups there. They set up the camera and they filmed for several days as the ice melted, and then they just kind of hung it all together. The scene where the creature catches fire was really a challenge to the special effects people. The alien's head was made out of rubber, but that would have burned up in an instant, and makeup artist Lee Greenway went to Sinclair Paint, and they came up with a product that was capable of withstanding intense flames for at least 2 or 3 minutes, so they gave the guy a chance. For the final electrocution scene, with all that smoke and lightning, not one, but 4 different things were used. There was the James Arness thing, then there was a man of average height, made up to look exactly like James Arness, then there was a midget, and finally a little 12-inch miniature. So what you saw in the disintegration scene was actually 4 things of varying size working their way down to the ultimate little pool of water, almost like the way the witch died in The Wizard of Oz. Unfortunately, the whole thing was lost with all that smoke. The best made plans of mice and things, I guess you could say about that. We'll be right back, but first let's take a look at this.
American Movie Classics presents a science fiction masterpiece.
Show me the fly.
Meet the obsessed scientist.
I can transport matter, anything, at the speed of light perfectly.
Visit the secret laboratory. Witness the experiment. Experience the horror. Vincent Price stars in one of the greats of the genre. It's the original, the classic, The Fly. Premiering Monday, October 31st on American Movie Classics.
He ventured into areas of knowledge where man is not meant to go.
He's back. This time he's mad and he's gonna get even. Vincent Price stars in A Tale of the Good.
You wouldn't believe. You would not believe.
The Bad.
It's something really fantastic, and I'm in a great spot to steal it.
And the Ugly. Catch The Return of the Fly. Premiering Monday, October 31st on American Movie Classics.
We're back, and now we get on to our next feature. It's called The Leopard Man, and The Leopard Man was produced by Val Lewton, the true master of low-budget horror films. Each Lewton film was his unique stamp, really, in place on the film. And we've seen many of these works right here in American Movie Classics, including films like Cat People, The Body Snatcher, Isle of the Dead, and Bedlam. great titles and all great films. Ironically, one of the techniques for which Luton's films are so famous didn't really come out of creativity so much as it did necessity, and that's the extensive use of shadows and darkness. He used this technique for two reasons. First of all, because it lent itself to horror in the minds of the audience. And second, and really more realistically, because his films were usually done with such low budgets that shadows were, he found, a lot cheaper to create than sets were. In a Luton film, when a room disappears off into the gloom, it's probably because they didn't have enough money to make the rest of the room. The script for The Leopard Man was based upon a 1942 novel by Cornell Woolrich called Black Alibi. Luton often used Woolrich's work as the basis for his films, and in the case of the author's obsession with time and the color black, it just fit perfectly into Luton's needs as a producer. Jacques Tourneur, who directed today's film, as well as Cat People, was, if anything, as much of a visualist as Luton was. Fortunately, it was a healthy partnership, with both men agreeing that subtlety is far better than show and tell, something that they could really take a lesson from in 1988. Let's watch Dennis O'Keefe, Margot, Jean Brooks, and our fears and imagination in the classic The Leopard Man.